Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to our Sunday class with Guy Finley. My name is John. Good to have you joining us here. Special good morning to my fellow students here in Southern Oregon who are joining me here. And good afternoon to my fellow students in Florida. Glad that you're here with us, and to all of you, wherever you may be. I'm glad that you're here to learn with us and to study with Guy again, as we have the privilege to do. Our classes on Sunday are one in which the first half of it is one in which Guy will present to us a talk that usually lasts about an hour. And looking at the title for this talk, it's very intriguing. I can't wait to hear what Guy is going to share with us. Then after he is through, when he's through, we take a short 5-minute break, and then we return for the chance to have an open discussion with Guy, a question and answer period in which those of you on GoToWebinar can talk directly to Guy, and those of you on other platforms can send in written questions. And together we explore the material even deeper. We go for a little deeper dive with Guy and hopefully learn as much as we can. So hopefully you can stay for the entire session. It usually lasts for about 90 minutes. And if you can't stay, please know that this class and all of our sessions are recorded, and you can return to them at your convenience and watch them and finish the session if you weren't able to do so. And we encourage you to do that if you can. All right, with that, why don't we get started? We'll bring Guy on, and let's begin our class today. Good morning, Guy.
Good morning, John.
Good morning. Would you like me to read the topic and key lesson for you?
Please.
All right. Here is the title for today's talk: The Secret Teaching in the 10 Commandments That Leads to Divine Self-Command. And here is the first key lesson that Guy has written. The only way we will ever know that death is an invisible doorway into another level of being, higher or lower, depending, is if we do the interior work, here and now, of dying to an unconscious nature whose will to live we've mistaken as being the same as our own. All right, I'll turn it over to you, Guy.
Thank you, John. And good morning to students that are here. Good morning to the students in Oregon. And again, as always, glad you're joining us wherever you are, whatever day or time it is in the world. I think we should all take a nice deep breath right at the start, because we're going to be going quite a ways into some uncharted territory. You're going to need to really relax, which I know is difficult for many of us. That doesn't mean fall asleep, which is easy for most of us. It just means that I want to look at something with you that is quite literally in front of our eyes all the time, but we don't see it. Just as an example, just prior to class, I was sitting here waiting for the music to finish, and I reached over to pick up my glass of water. And when I did, perhaps because of what I've been working on, I suddenly noticed how heavy it was. Do you know that when you reach over and pick up a glass or a fork or whatever it may be, you never notice the weight of it? And yet it has a distinct weight. And I point this out, that we don't have the awareness of the weight of anything as simple as a glass of water, because we don't have the awareness of the weight of our own thoughts and feelings, not even close. And there is a relationship, a certain amount of energy required to lift the glass. So is there a certain relationship that you have presently with your thoughts and feelings. And specifically, we've been talking about memory for the last 2 weeks now, that I want to go into quite deeply with you, so that you can begin to feel the weight of a commanding nature, of something that commands you that you have no idea commands you. And I mean that quite literally. Why don't I know the weight of something when I lift it up? Because I'm in thought. I'm somewhere else besides where I am lifting this cup. Maybe I'm already ahead wanting the drink. I'm somewhere in France wishing that it was wine and not water. Could be anything. I'm not here. Where am I? And the answer is, I'm in thought, which is memory. And as long as I live in the world of memory, I am commanded by the nature that draws me into it to derive the sense of self that I do from it. That's the introduction. Everybody on board? I hope that you'll stay with me. So here's a disciple, a young disciple, and he's asked to see the master of the abbot or the temple, whatever it may be. And he gets his wish. He comes in, and the master says, well, what's wrong? What's on your mind, young man? And he says, I don't know what to do with myself. I'm like a ping pong ball, back and forth, from frustration to anger, and then from anxiety to some kind of depression. I don't know what to do with myself. I know that I ought not feel these things that I do. I've studied for a long time, and I can even give you all the reasons in the world why I shouldn't feel this way, but God help me. I can't lie about it anymore, and that's part of my problem. Master says, I don't understand. What do you mean that's part of your problem? The disciple kind of looks down at the ground, tries to gather himself, and says, it doesn't matter how much I try, I'm unable to carry out even one of God's commandments, let alone the two main ones. I know they're good. I understand that they're righteous in their own way, but I can't keep the simplest of them. The master, I would tell you that he wouldn't show it necessarily, but a smile comes across the face of the master, and he looks at the young student and says, well, how so? Give me an example. The young disciple looks at him and says, well, I know you know them. The last of the 10 commandments is thou shalt not lie. I mean, everything in me knows nothing good comes from telling a lie. You don't have to be an Einstein. And yet I'm constantly submitting to some kind of formula that works itself out in the middle of a troubling moment where the equation comes out to me one way or another lying. Exaggerating something, revisiting something, making it bigger than it was, telling somebody what I think they want to hear so I can get what I want from them. I mean, I could go on for days. It seems to have no bounds. I better break in my own talk here. If I see any of you going into guilt because you're judging yourself while I'm talking, I'm going to keep talking. Lying has become second nature. Now, just stop there for a second. Do you understand lying is second nature to you? I know that you don't understand that because a lie always follows a lie. There's always a reason, very substantial one, why it is that I will take and say what I need to say and couch it in certain words so as to cause the very least resistance in the person I'm speaking to, or to be the most attractive person I can to the person I'm speaking to so I get what I want from them. I'm a genius when it comes to that. I'm a genius at lying. How extraordinary that a human being can live an entire lifetime and never even recognize, not even a small way, that lying is natural to them because it allows them to afford the outcome of the relationship they're in without causing trouble. I mean, I just throw away all my notes, just go on from this point because it's a mind blower if and when you start to see it. And apparently our young disciple that all of us represent in one way or another has gone to see the abbot about, has gone to see the master about. And he goes on to say to the master, it just twists everything. My mind says, Chubby Checkers has nothing on me, which most of you won't get. Do the twist. It manipulates reality. And we never think to ourselves, I wonder why I have to manipulate how things are perceived by people. Because I'm couching. I'm a forever couching human being. You know what that means to couch? It means I'm forever laying up in a certain way that which I think will most be effective to the person I'm speaking to get the best result. I couch everything I say. I won't just come out and say it, because that's not nice. But lying is nice. And I've come to believe that so thoroughly that when I hear this commandment, the 10th commandment, thou shalt not lie, I don't know what to make of it. He said the law, he said, just creates, I'm asking you now if you can go this far with me. The law just creates in me this, when I try to practice it, this endless sense of conflict. Because here I am, and I know the outcome I want. By the way, how do I know the outcome I want in any moment of relationship? Because I remember it before it's happened. Remember we talked about this? Something in me has already determined how things should be. And that's basically what a lie accomplishes, is to ensure it turns out the way that I want it to turn out, according to what I remember it should be, so that I can be me and continue this sense of self. I don't want to go too fast. So he said, I've revisited the words of St. Paul. He said, St. Paul said, I do the evil I would not instead of the good that I would. He said, that's a perfect description of me. In a lower tone, he said that. I don't do the good that I would. Because before I know it, I'm doing the evil I would not. I'm fabricating, I'm conjuring, I'm coming up with some way to decorate whatever it is that has to take place in that moment so that it doesn't cause a disturbance between not just people that I'm with, but in myself. He said, this is the most extraordinary thing of all. He said, sorry to go on like this, Master. I lie to myself. It's unbelievable. Why would I lie to myself? He said, I lie to myself all the time. Every time I come up with an excuse for why I'm negative, I realize it's a lie. But I believe it, and then I sell it to everybody that'll buy it. So I'm just not a good liar. I sell lies, and I'm the main purchaser of the pain that comes with them. The abbot says, oh, you're finished. you're a goner. No, he didn't say that, but he would if he had a sense of humor. The master goes, well, what do you want? What do you mean, what do I want? I'm lost. What am I to do? So, have I set the stage sufficiently enough? That's even assuming that you have the honesty. And I don't know, do you have the honesty to see your own reaction to your interior state as it's commanded? We'll get into that by a nature that's dedicated to ensuring it goes on, and not fall into judging yourself. Judging yourself is a lie. Can you see it? Why is judging myself a lie? Because it allows the liar to go on as something different than me who told it. I'm not the liar. I hate the liar. As if somehow or other me hating the part of me that's acting out what it does proves that I'm not the actor in that moment. It doesn't prove I'm not the actor in the moment. Judging myself proves there's something in me covering up the action so that I can feel as if I'm innocent and lost because of what this terrible situation is I found myself in. Everybody okay? So the master says, well, he said, I know that you have no doubt, and I'll strengthen it for you, that the 10 Commandments are good and notably necessary in the moral sense. I mean, when you look at it, basically the good laws that the world honors are all underpinned by these commandments. If the world was a good world, it wouldn't need all these laws. It would have the commandments. And especially the first two, love God with all thy heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. What more law do you need than that? What more law do you need than that? I can't live that law, the disciple says. That's my problem. The master said, no, that's not your problem. He said, that's where the possibility of something altogether new happens. He said, because did you ever think to yourself that the commandments, particularly one that about don't lie, but whatever they may be, that the commandment that so troubles you Nice deep breath. The commandment that troubles you didn't come into existence to create this conflict that you find yourself struggling with, but rather to illuminate it. The commandment didn't come into existence so that you would struggle with it, but so that you could see what you're struggling with that you don't know you are struggling with. There is a conflict inside of you that you are always struggling with that tells lies in order to hide itself from your awareness. And its law, don't lie. I'm going to give you the exercise before I even get to the end of the talk, because I don't want to forget it. When I get to the end of this talk, how many of you can name pretty quickly, and I know it depends on what horse you're on the carousel on what day, what would be the commandment if you could give it to yourself that you would keep? Do you snap at people? How about, thou shalt not snap? Thou shalt not be impatient. Thou shalt not judge. Thou shalt not fear. And keeping in mind that every commandment always is stated in the negative. And it's stated in the negative because you can say all day long, I'm not going to judge, I'm not going to be afraid. In fact, the world is filled with psychotic spiritual affirmations that drive people crazy. Why do I need to affirm that I won't judge if I don't? Why do I need to affirm that I'm strong and loving and kind if I am? And those affirmations are simply the flip side of a negative nature that requires the affirmation so you can identify with the pleasant image instead of see the actual nature that has to affirm itself in the opposite, which is what it does. I don't want to go too fast. The law reveals the nature at work within you. Thou shalt not lie. Well, let's say that I've caught myself lying. Have you ever said to yourself, I'm never going to do that again? How long does that last? Not very long, right? But we're very forgetful. I'm never going to. I saw how I hurt you. Maybe you didn't even know I did it. But I saw it, I felt it, it was there. Now, how would I know that something I do predominantly in painful situations is actually there unless in that moment something other than the nature that predominantly acts that way is present to that nature to see, in fact, the pain in it, not just for myself, but for everyone that I treat that way. Do you follow me? So that law helps reveal a nature that's at work in me that is a master of concealing itself, and without the law, it would live undetected and it would determine every relationship I have as it does now. What do you think retrospectively visiting painful moments is about? And why do I need to revisit a painful moment from my past? Let's bring up the second key lesson. It's a bit of a summary. I have 3 key lessons and a special question. So you all stay with me as best you can and listen to the key lessons, study them. These don't appear by themselves. They're not magic. They're intended to help you see things. Here's the second key lesson, an explanation up to this point. No lie ever told can be separated from the motive for telling it, which means that behind every lie is the will of some nature that has not already determined what is best for its security, continuity, but that lives in fear of losing its imagined estate, or it wouldn't have to lie to protect it. Think with me. Every lie ever told can't be separated from the motive for telling it. Yes or no? Yes. So there's a motive behind the lies that I tell. Please, God, help me see what could be the motive behind lying. And the motive behind lying is that it means somehow or other I can get through this moment And the reason I'm lying is because something is telling me there's a consequence to this moment. And if I don't lie or cover it up, I'm going to have to pay the consequence. What's dangling a conflicted consequence in front of me? Please, do you see the question I'm asking you? I lied. Why? Well, it wasn't really to hurt anyone. I lied because I'm afraid. I lied because I want you to like me. I lied because I want to like myself. I lied because listen to this, I lied because I want to be seen as good in the eyes of God. Because I have reasons for lying, and they're good reasons. Is there ever a good reason to lie? And I know I'll hear from some of you about this, and I'll just throw it in here. If it means shielding someone from something, it may be all right to not say the truth. Maybe. But you see, your view of that is that by hiding the truth, you're protecting them from something, when the truth says you needn't be protected from anything because there's nothing that you have to actually lose. So that everything that might bring up a fear in you isn't because God is trying to put fear in you, but because God wants you to see the Spirit of God has no fear in it, and the only way you'll ever know is by meeting those moments straight up, straight on. That way I don't have to come back to that when questions and answers start. No lie can be separated from the mode of telling it. Do you ever lie to yourself? Like something says, let's get up out of this chair. No. I have important things to think about. I have to finish that dream, not to mention that cupcake. It went on, which means that behind every lie is the will of some nature. This is key. Because we talked about the will of memory, right? We said that actually memory has a will. Memory has its own will. So every lie is the will of some nature. And why is that nature motivated to tell a lie? Because it's determined what it knows is best for it and everyone else. So that lie in its eyes is required to keep it from losing whatever it imagines itself being or having, including the love of people or whatever it is that it whomps up in its dream that it's so busy trying to protect. Have you ever really hurt? Have you ever told, that's a silly question, have you ever told a lie? Have you ever been caught in a lie? Boy, what a quiet group this is. I never saw so many people go into instant meditation as when I ask a question like that. Mine goes absolutely just dead still. Deer in the headlights. Yeah. And thank God I was caught. So if you understand that key lesson, let's go on to the key question, Eric. Because this is the heart of what we're looking at, if you'll look at it with me. Is it possible the Ten Commandments were never primarily intended to suppress wrongdoing, but to expose the invisible forces that make wrongdoing seem necessary? Doesn't it seem necessary to lie? Or is it so mechanical, and it really is at this point, like that, the weight of that glass of water? I don't notice the weight of that. I don't notice the weight of the liar. It'll come back and bound me. It'll come back and bury me. It'll come back and do all manner of things to me at some point. In fact, here's the point. See, come on. I live with the weight of the lies I've told. I live with the weight of the lies that have been told that I have agreed to continue. Do you ever wonder why it's this? Look, see, I want you to understand how good God is. I know that when you hear a talk like this, you're going, oh, God. No, thank God. Thank God that I can feel the weight of a nature that feels the need to lie, and that I carry that weight with me and I don't know I do. until at last something takes place, and then forgiveness occurs, not because God has forgiven me, but because by the grace of God's light, I can see the lying nature was never mine to begin with. And so I don't need to protect it. I don't need to carry its weight. It can all be put down the minute that it's clear. And that's what freedom is. And there's no freedom apart from that. Freedom is being liberated from an unconscious relationship with an altogether foreign level of reality that ensures you have to lie in order to keep a relationship with what it says you need in place. I know I need to dial it down. I'm not necessarily talking loud, but I know the energy that's coming into the room. And all I can tell you is that you have to learn to welcome every last bit of it. Not because the speaker is this, that, or the other. Speaker, nothing. If you knew how close I come almost weekly to never talking again, you'd faint. But the fact remains, and we have to look at it in every possible way. What if what I call these commandments, now listen to this. How many of you, do you remember when your brother wanted a piece of cake? Do you remember that? You said, no, it's my cake. I've been saving the frosting part. I'm speaking very personally now. You know how you work around to get the best bite? And your brother says, he looks at it, or he brings his fork over. And you get angry, and your mother says, you're not being a good brother. Do you know that lives with you now? That there's a nature inside of you that has no intention of sharing any more than the alpha or beta wolf wants to share with the lesser wolves in that group until they've had their fill. That's the nature. It has a memory. It wants what it wants when it wants it. And lying is part of the way the nature gets that in this world of psychology, of relationship. So I'm torn up. When my mother caught me lying, I told a big lie. I don't know how old I was, 7 or 8 years old. She gave me 5 cents to buy one of those big lollipops back in the day. I pocketed the 5 cents. I picked up the lollipop in the store and started to walk out with it. The manager came over to my mother. I came from a fairly famous family. Mrs. Finley, your son stole something. He did not. And I'm sitting there going, oh, mother of pearl. Please don't ask me to empty my pockets. He says, would you mind if we empty your pockets? And sure enough, there's the lollipop. Well, you'd have thought that I crucified Jesus. I got so torn up on the way home. My mother, I hate this, I hate liars. And by the way, there was never a bigger liar on the surface of the earth than my mother. She was a thief. A beautiful thief. I loved her dearly, but she was a thief. If she could get at it, she took it. Why? Because she deserves it. See, that's a big lie. You're owed something. So here I am. Do you think that the little 5-year-old, the 10-year-old who stole the lollipop doesn't look at the Porsche? I go, mine. Like a seagull, mine, mine, mine. It covets everything. But I'm not supposed to be like that. I'm not supposed to have an enemy. Because Jesus said, don't love thine enemies. Well, I want to be like Jesus. I want to love my enemies. I don't love my enemies. What I have is enmity towards them, that I hide the violence, the hatred, by coming up with some reason why they deserve to be blamed, or how terrible I am for being someone who doesn't love. Can't you see that? So this body, I'm describing to you a form of hell, a form of purgatory, actually, and it is. I have one nature, a lower nature that Christ came to help us transcend, and then I have another nature that can show me that nature, that is Christ's nature, the light, that's trying to show me all the time. Look, you don't need to lie to protect this thing. You just need to realize it's there, and the rest will be taken care of, because that's how it works. But they're not your works. You think they're your works, don't you? Do you ever lie in bed at night? Oh God, oh my this. See, you love it. You know why? Because it proves to you that you're not the thing you wish you weren't. I wish I wasn't so lazy. You liar. That's a lie. Stop being lazy. I wish that I would be a little more persistent. I wish that I put the truth first a little bit more in my life. Whatever that means, I wish I could do that. Why aren't you? Well, I've got, what did Christ say to that one disciple? Get rid of that stuff and come with me. Well, I would, but I've got hay I got to put up in the barn. I got to bring the animals in. Got to count the pomegranates. I got all kinds of stuff I got to do first. These stories aren't accidental stories. They're all describing a way in which the truth, by the grace of heaven, has provided a kind of light for us to be able to see, in this instance, what is the root of any lie? The root of any lie. We talked about it. What is it? Fear. Some form of fear. So something in me has a constant fear. But what does it have a constant fear of? This is where it gets fascinating. If you had to guess, what is this constant fear? Here's for us, the constant fear is I may lose him, I may lose that, this may go away, I might die. So the constant fear is basically that something in me wants continuity. It wants to keep going uninterrupted and in total security, wants nothing to upset or disturb it. That's what that will is. So it's always looking at life as if life is the problem. Remember the story from yesterday where the man said, what's wrong with this place? It's not clear. It's nothing like I remember it's supposed to be. What was the problem with the place? Or did he come in there under the will of a memory telling him this thing isn't right? That's exactly what happens to us. Something tells us this isn't right. And the way to fix it, tell a lie. Come up with something. Fabricate something. So I better go back because I got off base. Remember I told you the exercise? Your exercise, what is that, as best you could put it, a chief feature? Something that you know is pretty constant with you. Could be just a blabby mind. Could be that you're always in the past. Could be that you're always distracting yourself. Some of you just can't sit still. Rush, rush, rush. Some of us judging ourselves, judging others. Find the one thing. Forget 10. Find the one and make it your commandment. Find the one and make it your commandment. Live and die on it. And you will die on it, because if you actually try to live, I'm not going to rush, thou shalt not rush. Whew, okay. But I got to go right now. I'll talk to you later. And you don't see the switch. Because the consequence of not going is that I might lose something valuable. See it? Your commandment. All right, back to the beginning. Let's just jump to the third key lesson. I'm running out of time. Here we go. Whenever we feel compelled to lie at any level, we have become increasingly complicit with an unconscious nature that is making the need to lie appear indispensable. Whenever we feel compelled to lie, please, I'm going to talk about this next week. Until you can see life as it is through your own eyes, you will not know what it means to see real life. We don't see life through our own eyes. We see life through knowledge, memory, through the experience of sensation interpreted by nature. We don't see life as it is. You must see life as it is. Because as you start to see life as it is, lo and behold, the light that allows you to encompass the entire moment gets you a chance to see everything that's involved in creating the moment as it is, so that you can actually see, you know what? I really want to explain myself here. I really want to justify myself. I really want to revisit what he did or she didn't say at that point in time, because I'm disturbed. I'm bothered. And so I can't see that whatever it is that my mind gives me to do in those moments isn't creating some change or transforming the moment. It is taking me and using me to complete its will. Using me to complete its will. But the problem is I believe its will is mine. Isn't it?
Right.
We're hard pressed to see what I've been describing to you is true. But I want to go on now and deepen this for you. I'll pull back. We'll get a little more, not philosophical. If only you knew how much I hate the idea of someone turning this into a philosophy or something like that. When I talk about, like I love to talk about, the root of everything that was ever said that is true about reality is as true this very moment as when Christ, Buddha, Lao Tse, Rumi, as the moment it was spoke. It's as true right now. Whatever St. Paul uncovered that he was able to help the disciples see is as true in this very moment that I'm talking to you as it was when he saw it, because the root is timeless. The root is eternal. The root is buried, if you will, in a ground that never dies, so that anyone who sees that root sees something that never dies and can't, because it's part of an eternal truth, an eternal law. So, let's take just one of these 10 commandments. I picked one in particular because it tied into something that I like. How many have heard the expression, thou shalt not covet? Now, what does it mean to covet? Thou shalt not covet. Thou shalt not want what is not yours. Basically. Yes or no? Yep. So how many of you covet lots of stuff? We don't covet. I want what I don't have. And I believe that the feeling of I'm deserving of what I don't have proves that it's okay to covet. Doesn't it? Because I couldn't want this if it didn't belong to me in some way. Just God hasn't heard all of my prayers yet. That's why I haven't won the lotto or whatever insanity it is that the world sells you, that you buy lock, stock, and barrel because it'll fit into what you believe you deserve. I covet. Thou shalt not covet. I mean, if you just took that one, oh gosh. You're sitting at home. You're in your chair. Thought comes. Let's go out. Let's go on a trip. Do you think to yourself in that moment, I'm not saying there's any, please, if the shoe fits, wear it. Are you not coveting a time that is not your own and a place that isn't yours in that moment? I'm coveting a time to come. I'm in a time to come, which is a lie. The experience of the happy time to come is a lie. Why is it a lie? Well, number one, it's not there. Number two, it belongs to a nature that's imagined it. And number three, I'm deriving an identity from something that even when I get to that place, turns out to not be exactly the place it's supposed to be. So now I have to fix that place that didn't even exist until I wanted it. Following me? So I want, try it, your commandment, work at it. I don't want to be here. Do you ever feel that? Mm-hmm. Oh Lord, I'm ready to drop this body, take me. I'm yours. What are you coveting in that moment? What are you coveting in that moment? The idea of a place and time where the pain that you're in won't be there. Isn't that coveting? And does any moment give you some time or place that you shouldn't be in for the dedicated purpose of discovering the nature that's sitting there and coveting something else? Because if I weren't present, I would never know how I'm always being torn and pulled to be someone else, to do something else, to go somewhere else, to be anything other than I am. How can I want to be anything other than I am in the moment unless my mind has fashioned an image of it that now I covet, like Narcissus looking in the pond? Do you see it with me? So the minute that I covet something, what happens? I'm just going to run through this with you. an entire unseen economy reveals itself. Do you think to yourself that you carry around an unseen economy? I know it sounds silly, but let's say I covet something. The minute I covet something, can I covet without first having compared what I have to what I covet? So comparison starts coveting, doesn't it? And the minute that I have comparison, would I have this comparison, and do you ever come up on the high side of the comparison? Or is there always a certain inefficiency in the comparison? So the economy is comparison gives rise to a sense of insufficiency. Now, the minute I feel insufficient, does that not contain envy? You know, can you have envy without ambition? No, envy gives rise to desire. Desire gives rise to the ambition to get the image you covet. Are you following the economy of covetousness? And the minute that I have that ambition based on getting what I've coveted, now in my mind's eye, I've got it. But now the problem is I have to protect it. And I never had it. Not even close. So now I'm coveting things to protect something I've imagined if I got, I'd be happy. See, that's the definition of insanity. Please, I don't do this to show insanity. I show to see where it is that we are identified with an insane nature. Because it is. Anything that believes it can complete itself outside of what God has already made is insane by definition. It's outside of what is eternal. It is outside of what is timeless. It is outside of the light. Only a shadow imagines becoming light. Only a shadow imagines escaping light. So that we live all the time in a shadow world, to quote C.S. Lewis, that we're not aware of because lies hide it from us. So the commandment, like thou shalt not covet, thou shalt not lie, it's exactly like putting a contrast. You know how they use in medicine a contrast dye? They run stuff through you. It's like a contrast dye in medicine. It reveals a structure that's there but invisible without the contrast dye. That's exactly what these laws do, is they reveal a structure that we don't know is there because we're so identified with the system supporting that structure that it never even dawns on us that we're living from an entirely false nature dedicated to keeping the lie of its life alive at our expense. So one begins to see these commandments in not so much a moral prohibition as it is an instrument of revelation. You're always saying, and rightfully so, I would like to be a self-realized human being. I would like, please God, open me up. Please reveal the truth that sets me free. I am describing to you the process by which one enters into this light, because in that light is revealed the system that presently hides the light from us by telling us that we are the light, and therefore we deserve more candles, or whatever the metaphor might be to keep that silly idea going. So, why this covet business? I want to go to something St. Paul wrote. He wrote this in brief. What shall we say then? Is the law sin? God forbid. I had not known sin, says Paul, but for the law. I had not known sin but for the law. Not sin like you have in your mind. I had not known where it is I missed the mark, were it not for the law that made it evident to me that I lie about myself in relationship to the mark, and that I lie about hitting the mark when I don't hit it at all. He said, for I had not known sin but by the law, for I had not known lust, except the law had said, you shall not covet. I had not known, I didn't know lust. You don't think to yourself, lust is kind of one of those old words. I don't lust. Have you ever been waiting for a pizza? I don't lust, meaning I don't covet, meaning my identity is not a derivative of a time to come or of a past where I need to protect it, when everything about us can show us, in fact, it is just like that. And I wouldn't know it. It is so hard to come to the truth because it'll never be said. It can't be said. Just as what is truly balanced and harmonious, truly God's poetry, the best one can do is write down phrases or carve some marble or paint a canvas and approximate in a split second as best one can that might have taken 50 years to get to that point. Something that even that approximation comes up short. I'm trying to, as best I can, to help you see what I know you haven't seen. Not because I want you to suffer for seeing it, but because I know because you don't see it, you suffer. And that at some point, if a person really wants to come to the end of suffering, they stop lying to themselves about everything because they begin to see that their suffering can't be separated from the lies that have protected the nature that's always involved in creating the suffering. Because that it is. It's just for itself. That's all it's interested in. And then it doesn't say that's all I'm interested in. It says, no, I'm interested in God. I'm interested in Christ. I'm interested in the light. I want the truth. And it no more finishes saying that than it's lied to itself because it can't see it's deriving an identity that's asleep to in that moment that has nothing to do with being fully present and aware of oneself. All I'm aware of is this delightful thing I see in the reflection of my own mind, and I'm narcissist in that moment. Paul says that if it weren't for the law, he would never know, he would have never known that he lived outside of it. And that's an amazing admission. You know, I never talk about it because the word is so loaded. Religion has ruined everything. Mechanical religion's ruined everything. Part of your life should include a daily confession, not just once. So that you don't sit there and confess yourself to some man or woman, which is what you do when you justify or explain yourself. You confess yourself in front of the light that reveals where it is that you have stepped outside of the law and you know it. Feeling sorry for yourself is outside of the law. Thou shalt not have self-pity. Why? Because there's no self to feel sorry for, save for one that didn't get what it thought it was supposed to, and now it blames life. So anything that blames life is plainly outside of God's life, isn't it? Which brings us back to Christ's teachings. Shift here. Now, Judaic law, the Ten Commandments, which by the way, were not the first time these things were stated. It's just the way in which they came down on these. You see Charlton Heston with these big stone tablets. So here comes Christ. And by the way, I better not go there, it's too much. Christ doesn't state these things in laws. Judaic was law. This is the law. If you don't live up to the law, you get a stone. Right? Thou shalt not commit adultery. That was one of the 10 Commandments. They were going to stone that poor woman. Right? And he comes forth and says, well, no, there's another law. He didn't say that. But the way he said there's another law, but enacted, he said, okay, well, if none of you have done anything like that, throw the stone. And nobody can throw the stone because suddenly they're aware of the law that reveals to them that they've been breaking the law all of these years, but no one stoned them. Who are they to stone someone who supposedly broke the law that they're above? Follow me? So Christ comes around, and instead of laws, he says, I want you to internalize the commandments. I don't want you to think about them. I don't want you to live by the laws, which you can't do anyway, which I promise you, when those laws were written, it came from an intelligence and given to Moses, who, by the way, could not live the laws that he was given. That's why he didn't get into the promised land. Moses couldn't live the laws. God gave him one simple law on the way over there. All this is grist for the mill. You have to work it out. I'll talk about it in days to come, maybe. He couldn't live the law. So Moses said, well, you want me to go do that? Go into the land of dark evil and do what? I can't do that. Who am I to do that? So Moses had already imagined himself as being someone incapable. And basically God said, shut up, Moses. Just do what I'm telling you to do. Basically. Here's how Christ did it. He didn't say, thou shalt not point out or blame the mote in your brother's eye. He didn't say, thou shalt not blame or point out the mote in your brother's eye. What did he say? See the beam in your own. Didn't need a law for that, did he? He didn't say, don't steal. He said, but see the nature in you that covets what others have because you believe it should be yours. See how jealous you are. See how occupied you, especially as Westerners. Me, by the grace of God, I've been to most third world countries. And I'm sorry to say that even though there were moments where it felt like I had completely changed my nature, it did not change my nature, even though there was a period of time when I'd get back from those places where I understood beyond the shadow of a doubt that nothing can go on the way it is. This world is broken and it cannot go on. But the revolution, the reality that these moments bring up, just as when you see something in yourself and you have a shock, that is the invitation to a revolution. Why? The shock is showing you something that you've been living with. Talk about a third world country. How about a fifth world consciousness? And you see it. And for a moment when you have that shock, don't you say, oh my God, that's it, I'm going to change, that's it, I'm going to fix this, yes or no? And then what happens? Gone. Which is why it requires this constant work. So then this, another one. Christ didn't say, don't commit adultery. What did he say? He said, if you haven't done that, throw a stone. Judge somebody. See the nature that's creating the condition. Don't try to lie to yourself about the condition so that you are complicit with its continuation, basically. And why did he come at it this way? Why did the teachings evolve? And it is a form of, it's not really an evolution, it's an unfolding. Things that unfold aren't evolving. What unfolds that is timeless when it begins. So in the truest things, I wasn't going to say this, all of this, whether it was John Baptist, Moses, St. Paul, Christ, the order of these things is relatively unimportant. What's important that they're all unfolding from the same true law that underpins real life. So he says, this main commandment, which were what? Love thy neighbor as thyself, love Lord thy God. If I actually try to live that, and let me just bring you into this, and I know it doesn't fit for most of us, I get it. I understand why there's no room at the inn. I have more important things to do. Don't you see that's a lie? I think when I'm sitting there regretting something or wishing that I had something or that I could be different or if only I had this or if only that was, I actually believe that when I'm caught up in the midst of that that's the most important thing in the world. And do you know why I think that's the most important thing in the world at that time? Because I'm buying the lie that makes those kind of thoughts and feelings essential. That nature has to have those thoughts and feelings in order to be what it is. One day you won't want to be it more than you presently want to agree to be it, which is what truth does. It brings this about inside of us. So physical, psychological machinery, impression comes, memory interprets it. I'm just running through a review now. When the memory interprets it, it decides yes or no, fight or flight. And as soon as it decides yes or no, fight or flight, what happens? Body follows. Action, ready, action, right? Impression, reaction, action. And action then does what? Action reinforces the identity that was established when I began to think through the moment from the nature that was picked up by it. Now, here's another commandment to understand it entirely. The commandment, remember your commandment, whatever it is? Thou shalt not, we'll just pick one. Thou shalt not rush. Here's the commandment. If I had that commandment, it would be, first of all, because I see that given any particular moment, I'm always in a rush. I'm late for a very important date, no time to say hello, goodbye, I'm late, and I'm not even out of bed yet. So I'm already in a race. But I don't know I'm in a race because it feels to me as though everything moving through me is critical to the identity that's being moved. So I'm fully identified with that movement. And then if I remember, I said, wait a minute, I can feel this anxiety. Thou shalt not be anxious. Wait a minute. All of a sudden, I'm aware of the anxiety instead of wearing the mask of it. Please? I'm aware of the anger instead of being identified with the reason for it. Whoa! Now there's actually the possibility of an action that isn't the continuation of that lower will that's brought me into its world, into its memory to complete it. Now a completely different action is necessary, is possible. And what's the new action? Please. What's the new action? Suddenly, thou shalt not be anxious. But I am anxious. Don't miss this. I see the influence of that nature is not sovereign to the moment. The influence of that nature is not sovereign. When you feel like that, doesn't it seem like it's sovereign to you, meaning all-consuming, all-important? I mean, I wouldn't be doing this if I wouldn't be snapping at you if I wouldn't. Because in that moment, if I actually was present, I couldn't possibly hurt you or myself. But to me, it's sovereign in that moment. I must get to the end of this suffering. That's what's sovereign. And it never brings to mind the question that that suffering may be born of a lie. Do you ever think to yourself that your suffering is born of a lie? Never. Never. Do you ever think your regrets are born of a lie? Never. But it is. And the only way you can know that is by bringing into that moment that which reveals that this influence is not sovereign. And the way you know it's not sovereign is because of something sovereign in you showing you the truth of it. And in that you are given the chance to begin the crucifixion, the chance to begin dying to yourself. Because now you know what it means to lose your life. Now you know it was never your life to begin with. But you sure thought it was yours. Yes or no? Yes. And its lie was the perpetuation of its life. And its life was at the cost of your own. But now you know that it has to be given up. And maybe for the first time in your life it comes to you, Jesus, please God, I can't bear this. I'm going to lose. What'll happen? I've got 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years invested in this thing. My entire identity hinges on seeing that this person sees me the way I want them to see me, or that someone says they love me, or that I keep what I thought I had to have. My whole life depends on it. And then you see it was never your life. And then it's yours. The gift of that sovereignty makes it possible for you to, in one way or another, decide what you're going to serve in that moment. And if it weren't for the law, those of you that know C.S. Lewis and the deep magic of The Lion, the Witch, this is the deep magic. There's a law that transcends all the laws. I'm describing it to you. It was there before the first magic. Because magic requires two parties. The law doesn't. The real law is life giving birth to itself, God giving birth to his son, so forth and so on. And I'm not speaking religiously. So in that moment, I get it. I can feel the influence, and the influence surfaces as a temptation always. Temptation is always, you can't have temptation without consequence. You can't have temptation without consequence. You've never been tempted that it didn't hold the consequence. So suddenly I'm present to the temptation. And the temptation is the continuity of this nature, or to give it up. You can't be tempted to give it up. You can only see the necessity for doing so. So it feels in that moment that nature presents itself as I. I'm getting to the end of this talk. But can you begin to see it's not I? If I got that much across, it's a pretender. It's a pretender. It is the great deceiver. It is the liar. So this awakening does something that cannot be done in any other way, which is what? It presents the possibility and preserves it at the same time of what Christ called metanoia, of a brand new mind. A mind that can see instead of seek. A mind that understands instead of turning to the past to explain things. All at once, so that every lower order of will in this moment, you see it as something seeking its own continuity. And because you see it as seeking its own continuity and you step outside of it, you step back from it, then you realize there's the order of will that seeks continuity, and then there's the divine will that seeks continual creation. And now you're participating in creation, in the birth, the new conception. The will of memory says what? What does the will of memory say? Remember what you've been. The will of desire says what? Become what you lack. The will of fear says protect what you know. But the divine will always says, behold, I make all things new. And if you can simply see in that moment that it isn't new that you're experiencing, but the promise of something new that you can identify with and get through that moment sufficiently to get through it, now you understand. And I close with this, not my will, but thy will be done. If ever there was an explanation. Because at last I get it. It was never my will. It was never my will. It was never my will. Do you see, when we talk about separating wheat from chaff, do you think that chaff goes, let me off of this wheat? Do you think the wheat is going, oh, I'm just going to blow off this chaff? Or are they bound together until threshing takes place? Yeah, they're bound together. I'm describing to you the light that threshes the soul and produces in it this new understanding that produces for the first time, if you will, the possibility of staying long enough to see what has been attempting to complete itself through you. Long enough to see what has been completing itself through you. And then you get it. And what do you get? A chance to go where almost no human beings ever go. And that is into a light that reveals a darkness that has lied, and to reveal it as such, and for you to step into a world that is literally, you don't create the light. The law reveals the darkness. You don't create the light. The law reveals the darkness. Step out of that law, of that darkness. You can't do it without the light having revealed it. This is a very immense topic. That's why I struggle sometimes to be able to see these things and yet not try to formulate an answer from it. That's the task. Not to formulate an answer, to let it all come in. Let it do its work. Let it do its work. Set the commandment for yourself. Let it do its work. See what it brings. See what happens to you. Don't try to become someone who's going to keep the commandment. There's nothing more boring, sickening than people who keep the commandments. They never have fun. They're boring as hell. And they are, in fact, already dead without knowing it. When Christ said, let the dead bury the dead, the actual meaning is, those who can no longer suffer themselves are already dead. You are not suffering yourself when you fight with the law. You are suffering a nature that has to fight with the law in order to give itself a sense of life. You see all of this and your life begins to change in ways it's impossible for any man, any woman to ever describe. Let's take a break. We'll come back and have our Q&A.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back from our short intermission, our short break, and we're about to begin our open discussion with Guy, our question and answer period. And again, we invite all of you out there to participate if you wish. Those of you on GoToWebinar have the chance to talk directly to Guy if you wish, and those of you on Facebook and YouTube and elsewhere, you are free to send in written questions if you wish. And I have 3 written questions already. But before we get kind of settled and get started with that, let me share 2 announcements and reminders with you. The first, as always, is I'd like to remind us of our full weekly schedule of classes here that are sponsored by the Life of Learning Foundation. This Sunday morning class is what gets our week started. And then during the week, we have 2 online study groups that kind of are the bookends of the week, so to speak. Tomorrow on Mondays at 6 p.m. Pacific time, we have an online study group that is open to our Wisdom School members. And that particular study group always considers and discusses the talk that Guy had presented in our classic Guy Finley talks the previous Wednesday. And so look forward to that. Then, as I said, Wednesdays, we have a series of talks called Classic Guy Finley Talks. And there we take talks from the past that Guy has given that are particularly special. And we replay those and listen to those again. And then on Fridays, we have an online study group as well. It meets at 5 p.m. Pacific time. And that particular study group is one open to anyone who wishes to join it. And that one on Fridays always discusses the talk that Guy presented the previous Sunday. So this coming Friday, we'll be talking about this very talk that we just heard today. So I hope you can join us for that. And then the week ends with Guy's on live talk on insighttimer.com/live at 8 a.m. So again, plenty of opportunities to join us and continue furthering how deeply you understand these ideas. So join us for all of those. Then I just wanted to point out one other thing. You know, if you're just sitting sometimes during the intermission and you see we have a number of slides that come up in our video that talk about all sorts of opportunities. And one opportunity I just want to highlight is our weekly newsletter that we send out, a weekly key lesson email that comes out on Wednesdays. And I encourage you to sign up for it. It's free. It provides not only news about the foundation, but inspirational readings and quotes from Guy. And if you sign up for it, you also get free access to an ebook of Guy's, one of his early books, Freedom from the Ties That Bind. So if you're interested in that and you haven't signed up for that, I encourage you to do so. Just go to guyfinley.org/newsletter and you can become a part of that mailing, all for free. So anyway, let's move to get started for the discussion. We'll bring Guy back on and see. Guy, do you have anything else you want to share before we open up the forum?
I do. I actually was going to make a note and save this for a separate talk, but I think now would be a good time to bring it in. The devil, by whatever name, is not something new to Christianity or Judaism. It goes back as far as Zoroaster. It goes back thousands of years. And the extraordinary thing is that in every single instance of every old spiritual path or religion, they all have the exact same name for this incarnation of evil. And you know what the exact same name is? Liar. Exact same name, liar. Now, one of the chief ways in which the liar pulls the wool over the eyes of the aspirant, and I'm bringing this in now because we have covered some material fairly strongly and in depth, is the devil has a favorite ploy. The liar has a favorite ploy. First, it induces the aspirant to seek, to acquire, to gather, and ultimately to identify with what it is, and then try to live that out But when all is said and done, one of the favorite ploys of this punishing nature is to call you a hypocrite. You won't really know what progress is spiritually until the very nature that tempted you into whatever you are identified with and speak from and live at calls you a hypocrite, because that's what it says you are. And then it will show you, see, you can't keep the law. You can't keep up the commandments. You're not good enough. You're a liar, says the liar. You're a hypocrite, says the nature that induced you to act hypocritically by feigning to be something that you're not. So first it gets you to pretend, to identify with a lie, and then it judges you for the lie that it told you to adapt. Don't you fall for it, and you will. When it said that Mara, all the legions of devils came to see Buddha sitting under the tree, that's exactly a description of what happens to the aspirant when at last he or she reaches a point where that actual evil nature starts to suspect this person may be getting a little too close to calling the bluff. It's starting to see through the influence because something sovereign is seeing for it. And it'll say, you hypocrite, and it'll throw everything at you. You must be prepared for that. And I'm here to help you be prepared for that. Now I'm off, John.
All right, Guy, we'll start. Again, we have both students live, and again, those of you in the Florida classroom, again, Guy will let me know if you wish to speak. I do have a student here in Oregon who has been very eager to start our discussion, so we'll start there with this student.
Well, John, come back, John.
Very eager, here I am. Guy, I really, really like this talk. I think probably one of the things that the devil lies to me, a darkness, I just loved what you just said. And one of the things that the darkness lies to me about is I'm guilty of, we talked about chief feature. This nature is guilty of every chief feature you could mention, right? So, but that's what prevents me from picking one thing to work on, because, well, I have rage, I have impatience. This nature is guilty of all of that. But if I were to really look at the thing that dominates my day, I would say mostly it's anxiety, fear, worry, and that gives rise to all the other things, rushing, impatient, and all that stuff. And when you talked about having a sovereign nature, I just love that word. I don't really have anywhere else to go with that other than I know that I can remember one commandment, and that is when that nature of fear, worry, and anxiety start dominating my day, which they do so often, that I can remember there's something sovereign in me that's seeing all that.
Listen to me, not
Yes.
to remember and identify with this idea of something sovereign, rather to use that moment that its light, its eyes might show you it is sovereign over what is now revealed. What is in the dark never reveals itself. It can't, it wouldn't know where to begin.
Yes.
But that which is light, this higher awareness, the capacity to attend to the moment instead of attending to what the moment tells you you need to talk to yourself about. How about thou shalt not complain, Deborah?
Yeah.
Pick one, not three.
That's
One.
right. Yeah.
One. You got it? Then I want to hear a report next week from you.
Okay. I'll pick one and I'll work with it. And I wanted to say something else, but then I forgot. So I'll come back and say something later. But I so appreciate what you have to share and what it sparks in us. So thank you, Guy.
Yeah. Be sure and come back if you remember it.
If I remember, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just work at not complaining.
I'm not telling you, I'm just telling you that if you can come close to guessing, not guessing, but having experienced certain things in yourself, that will be fairly close to something dominant in you. And that's what we want to, as best we can, bring into the light, what dominates us. Whatever the particular nature is, its will always reveals itself through a particular kind of character or quality. That's what we want to know.
That's what we want to know. Okay, thank you, Guy. I'll give you John.
While I'm waiting,
All right.
while I'm waiting for John to sit down, I want to ask the students in the room and the students in Oregon or wherever you are, because I watch sometimes. I think as I'm talking, some of you think to yourself, "Oh my God, he's talking about me. He's talking about me. He's talking about me. Yeah, I don't want him to talk about me." Do you ever think that? Yes or no? There is no me. There's no you I'm talking about. That's one of the ways it lies. That's one of the ways it lies. No, is this in me? You betcha by golly. But that's all you need to know. And that which, and even Deborah said it, I don't know if you heard it, but I'll help you understand it. She said, the whole devil's in me, not just parts, the whole devil. Yeah, that nature is, but you don't understand its role. You don't understand the part it plays. Because you let it tell you the part it plays by getting you to resist its action. You'll see as we go. Or John, over to you.
All right, Guy. We have Joan in our online queue, so we'll go next to Joan. So, Joan, you can unmute yourself and come on camera also if you wish. Say hello.
Joan, there. All I see is the top of your head and the bottom of your PJs. Hi, Joni.
Okay. Hi. Hello to everyone there. I miss you all. So there's been something that's been bothering me for a while, and this kind of talk kind of triggered it for me to ask this question. So you talked about the great deceiver and the devil, the liar, this nature. So, I'm in my daily prayers, I always ask, God to forgive my sins, to forgive me. Is that right to do? I mean, it seems to me like I'm asking God to forgive evil, or I'm not sure. I'm just confused about it, It's just, maybe I'm overthinking it.
A little bit, but I'm glad you're asking the question. Everything should be suspect. But it's unique that you asked the question, and I'm gonna tell you one of the 10 commandments I didn't have time to cover because I found it so fascinating. You will too, I trust. The third of the commandments is, "Thou shalt not take thy Lord thy God in vain." Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain.
Yes.
Do you know what that means? People think that means I shouldn't curse.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with that. It means that you should never use the name of God in any of your vain prayers. You should never turn to it the way that most of us do and find some kind of comfort in the name instead of doing the work of the Comforter, which is to see that we don't need the name, we need the light. And if we step into that light, then God's evidence is everywhere with us. So that taking the Lord's name in vain is to trivialize it. And how do I trivialize the name of God? I just make it part of a routine mechanical prayer. Isn't it trivial? Does it change anything? Or am I just saying that because I think that's the right thing to say and then I'm going to get through it? I'm not saying don't do that, Joan. I'm just simply saying, is it mechanical? Do I say it and then I'm on to the next television show or the next bingo game or the next trip wherever? Is that what I do? Because if that's what I do, then you know it's in vain. In vain means of no use. That's what it not take the name of God in vain. Of no use. It is of no use. A mechanical prayer is of no use. But they won't tell you that because they want your money. You hear me over there in Buffalo?
Yeah, when I like to say the 7-step exercise you gave me, so when I'm going through it, I try to come awake as much as I can and just physically be there, in the moment. So I do that when I say that too, when, to ask God to forgive my sins. But a lot of it too is mechanical, I can see.
Yeah,
Over time.
just all we're looking to do, Joni, is get rid of the mechanical. I've mentioned this once or twice before, that old story about, I forget, I think it was Moses was up in the mountains. He found a shepherd, and the shepherd was praying and, oh God, doing all this stuff, and oh God, and he berated the shepherd boy because he wasn't praying according to law. And I think the story goes that somewhere down the line, God hits Moses with a lightning bolt and says, don't you tell my people how to pray. Let the boy pray the way he knows to pray. You pray the way you know to pray. But when at last, if you're willing to see it, that these prayers don't come to real transformation, then you have to start suspecting maybe the nature behind this prayer isn't as genuine, isn't as real as I want it to be. And then that purifies the prayer to some extent, because I'm a little more present now. Don't you listen to anybody tell you how to pray. Find out for yourself. God wants you. What is divine wants you to be in union with it. Find out what that union is by seeing where you are disavowing that union through some mechanical sense of self derived from a mechanical prayer. You follow me, Joni?
Yes, I understand. Isn't another question just came up is, if you take time out to pray on your day, isn't that kind of a form of prayer too?
Sure it is.
Yeah, it's.
Of course
Okay.
it is. Of course it is.
Okay.
Birds
Thank you.
swim, fish fly, men pray, it says.
Yeah.
But what is prayer? Is prayer stopping to ask God to make sure that I get extra cheese on my bologna sandwich? That sounds silly. Is prayer stopping and saying, please give me this, God, because I deserve it? I love you, and so therefore you should love me back in this way. That isn't prayer. That's that is the blasphemy that is mentioned in those 10 commandments.
Right.
So taking time in earnest, but you can take time every time. What's keeping me from being in prayer while I'm talking to you if I'm fully present? What is prayer other than offering myself up to the light that reveals to me the content of myself in that moment? That's what Isaac did. That's what Abraham did with Isaac. All of these things are expressions of a way in which we are asked to participate in a different life. Okay?
Yep. So prayer is also a way to see yourself.
Prayer is a way to be yourself, and in the attempt to be yourself, you will see yourself.
Okay. Thank you, Guy.
Okay, Joni. Nice to see you.
You too.
All right, Guy, I have 3 written questions, so I'll start with one of them here and share that with you. This came in earlier during the week from a student who said they wished to remain anonymous, but they had a very important thing they wanted to ask you. And so the question said, thank you, Life of Learning team and Guy. I have been listening for a couple of years now, and the teachings have been amazingly point on. I would appreciate Guy's perspective or thought on something. My husband has been in and out of the hospital for the last couple of years, seemingly by feeding and reproducing a narrative of fear. How do I love and maintain my own health? Thank you in advance.
I want to answer your question in a completely different way. I hope that you're online, or at least you get a chance to hear this. Everybody, wide awake. Let this impression come to you. Here's a young girl, will make her 8, 9, 10 years old. She's gone to a new school in a new city, already terrified, wants to fit in. And she comes home after 2 or 3 days and she's beside herself, distraught. And her mother says, what's wrong, sweetheart? And she says, there's some of the girls there. I thought they were being friendly. One started asking me, where where did I come from? And I answered, and then she asked another question about what was it like there. And then I answered her question, then she asked another question. And by the time I got to the end of all the questions she was asking, I found out she wasn't asking questions to learn something about me. She was asking questions so she could have something on me and punish me because I wasn't part of her clique. I don't know what to do. And her mother says, sweetheart, I want you to listen to me like you've never listened before. Don't forget this, because this will help you throughout your entire life. You don't have to answer any question that anybody asks you. You think you have to answer these questions. What's wrong? You think you have to answer it. What do I do? You think you have to answer it. How am I going to fix this? You think you have to answer it. Just like the little girl who grew up to learn, I don't have to answer that question. You don't have to answer a fear, an anger, a worry, a doubt, a hatred. You don't have to answer the questions that nature asks you, because it's leading you where it needs to lead you so that it can give you its nature and call it your own. You don't have to answer. What if you were laying in bed at night and you hear these tormenting thoughts, and I know you all do. You think you have to engage in a dialogue with it. You don't have to answer. You say, but what am I supposed to do if I don't answer? You're asking the wrong question. What do I become when I do involve myself in that dialogue? And the answer is, you become the extension of that unconscious nature that's tricked you into a dialogue so they can bury you in its darkness. That's what it's done. And that's my answer to you, person who has a husband, that I wish you could understand clearly. All human beings can do, I know that you don't want to hear this, none of you do. All we know how to do is hurt ourselves. Because what else can that nature do? It literally has to hurt itself so that it can lie about how it got hurt. It has to do it. That's its continuity. That's its memory. So here I am and my husband in and out of the hospital, feeding and reproducing a narrative fear. Look, you can't heal him. You can't make your husband into anything. So anything that tells you you're responsible for your husband's narrative is part of a narrative trying to drag you into a world that you don't belong in. Be yourself. See yourself. And by the way, when you do, you will stop responding to your husband in a way that creates codependency. You'll see that as well. Things will change because you change. And more beautifully than that, although you may not see it as such, when you change, and even if others don't, then you're changed, they're not, adios, on I go. Because I'm answering the real will, not the will of something that wants to keep me a captive of a relationship that I outgrew. I hope that's clear, person who didn't give a name. I'm done, John.
All right, Guy. Kate has told me that Debbie Eaton is in the chair there, so we can go to her next if she's there.
It's hard to say sometimes.
Hi.
Hi.
So lately, it seems as though something in me is getting more sensitive to that liar, because lying has to happen through thought, except for practical thought. So in my walks to the lake, I take walks every morning because I love being out in nature.
Yeah.
And you have said in the past that when you're walking, to have your eyes down will take you into thought.
I said that when your eyes are down, it's because you're in thought. The body is balancing itself mechanically, so the rest of you can go wherever the hell it wants to go.
Well, I'm beginning to really understand, as goes your attention, so comes your experience. Because if I put my eyes down,
I'm gone.
I feel it. So I'm literally trying to keep my eyes up, and I actually, maybe this is just a consolation. I say to myself, just let it go and be, because it'll start. You know, as I've got my eyes up, thought will start, but not as much. And it's because, I guess, you're getting this broader view of life in front of you.
You're doing the best that you know how to do. Can you do better than the best you know how to do?
No.
Well, that's the best you know how to do. Let it go and just let it be. So right now, I would rather have that thought and identify with that sense of self than identify with the suffering inherent in this lower nature that wants me to look down so it can think about what it wants to. One day you'll catch yourself thinking to yourself, well, just let it go and let it be, and you'll see, well, there's another Debbie, there's a DI, there's a Debbie identity. And just catching that will allow you to be more cognizant. You might still do it, but now you'll be aware of that nature doing that. So you'll start through this process of purification, of pulling yourself out of this process by which, one way or the other, this sense of I keeps going. Okay?
Yeah, and if I had not moved to Florida, I don't think this would have come about somehow. I guess it would have, because we are always given exactly what we need. But it seems to be...
I'm going to give you something to work on.
Okay.
When you finish a sentence, finish it. Because right now what you do
okay,
is
I get it.
you make a
Yes.
statement and then you go on and explain why you said that. Stop explaining yourself to yourself and everybody else. Wouldn't that be something?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes. Thanks.
Look, how many of you know without having to take thought, and I don't know if you actually do know, that when I'm justifying myself, I'm suffering. I'm suffering when I justify myself. I'm just not aware of the fact that I'm suffering, because what is it that justifies? Because she said, she made a statement, and then why do I have to justify? Because I want to make sure it's super clear and that I'm actually right. So fear justifies. Fear justifies. Now, if I'm afraid and I don't know it, does that mean I'm not suffering the fear in that nature? No, I am suffering it. I'm just not aware of it. So I say to myself, thou shalt not justify. Oh my, OMG. Hold on. Isn't that it? And that's what'll happen. Yeah. And then you'll see that. And then people go, what's wrong with you? One day this will be fun to you. I know it's not now. On we go, John.
On we go, Guy. I have another student here in Oregon, Patricia, who would like to talk to you, so I'll turn it over to her.
Thank you, honeysuckle.
Hi, Guy.
Hi, Patricia.
I'm laughing in my tears because what you were just saying to Debbie, I thought, oh God, he's busting me too. As I thought of thou shalt not, and for me, the one that's been popping up a lot for me is thou shalt not procrastinate.
Yeah.
I've been dealing with that quite a lot lately. And yesterday, I was aware that I needed to do some mundane tasks, and I thought, no, I'll just do them later. And then I thought to myself, you're telling yourself a little white lie because you're going to justify or rationalize, if I do something fun first, then I will do the thing I don't want to do. And I went into thinking about how it almost felt like a confessional, like I'm going to the priest saying, Father, I have sinned or whatever. And so for me to say that to myself was like a confessional to give me an excuse to buy some more time.
Right.
And I'm thinking about how you say, just do it, or
Right.
stop it. And I thought I needed like an exercise or something, because I could see myself doing it and then saying, but I'm not going to change. I'm just going to do it what I want to do anyway. And so this talk just really tied into what I've been doing in terms of busting myself and then saying, it's okay, but I'll do it anyway.
Yeah. All that's good, Patricia, and I would just add this one thought. I'm not saying it happened, but a lot of us, we have a thought of something practical to do, and then we think to ourselves, well, I really need to do it. I shouldn't procrastinate, because if I do, I keep doing that. And then 20 minutes later, I'm still there thinking about not procrastinating, which is procrastination,
Right.
right? Get up. Be like James Brown. Get on up.
Done up.
Okay? Think of James Brown in that moment. Get on up, okay?
Yeah, I like your, you're saying, locking the mouth or not justifying what you just said. I do that all the time, and that's a form of procrastination, because if you keep justifying, then you run out of time and you don't do it.
Right. So I want you to understand something. Don't spend any more time thinking about all the things you don't do right. Start doing what you need to do, and you'll see what's keeping you from doing it properly, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right, I'm back. We're at about 10 after, Guy. I have a couple of written questions. I'll share one here and we'll see where we go with that. This was a question that actually came in right at the end of your Insight Timer talk yesterday. It came in from Kim, and Kim asked, would you say that mastering the art of being more present will reduce the likelihood of attracting experiences you have to heal from?
Kim, the short answer is yeah, I would say that, but I would really just add a little clarification. I hear typing. Is that John?
I told John to mute.
John, mute, please.
There you go. Thank you.
This is maybe a bit of a reach. When you see a master, you see someone who clearly had to make sacrifices, who put something ahead of everything else for the sake of mastering what they did. But what you don't see is that individual was not the one who mastered the skill. What you see is someone who was mastered by love. The love of something is what allows us to become a master. And when the love of something allows us to become a master, we no longer and never think of ourselves as someone mastering anything. There's no such thing. Why do you call me good, woman? Only God is good. So that in the end, the true mastery is born out of the antithesis of what we think it is. It has to do with surrender. So that it isn't we, Kim, who master the art of being present. It's we who work to see what happens when we're not, and then let the light that reveals to us the punishment inherent in being separate from life, as is the nature that separates us from it, that begins to awaken in us not just the faith that there's something beyond that present condition, but that we are created to go beyond it, and then love takes us there. That's my answer to your question.
All right, Guy, I have another student who just walked in Oregon here, wants to talk to you. It's Chris.
Good morning.
Chrissy.
Put my glasses on so I can see you.
Yes, Chrissy. I can see you.
Good. So this talk is so apropos because I think all of us lie. I know for myself, I can just see seamlessly to keep the image that we want alive or to get whatever it is that we want.
Right.
It's just like part of our human nature. I see it in others as well. And why do we, when you were saying, why do we do it? And I think it's fear. You said it was because we are afraid. And we are afraid to keep these identities in place. Not only outwardly, but inwardly.
It is afraid, not I.
Right.
It is
Right.
afraid. I just identify. I become a participant in its plan.
Right. And I'm influenced by that, not even knowing.
Correct.
that I'm influenced. But like you said, I liked what Debbie reiterated, sovereignty. Those lies don't have to become my life.
That's right. And they mustn't be, Chrissy.
Yeah, but I, as I see it in other people, there's beginning not to be judgment, but to see where is that in me,
Yeah.
and just to be aware of what presently runs my life.
As best you can, as often as you can, as deeply as possible.
Yes. Okay. Nice to see you, Guy.
You too, Chrissy.
Well, Guy, Kate told me Yoli is at the mic in Florida.
Yoli is at the mic.
All right.
Nice and loud, Yoli.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Barely.
Better now?
Better now.
Okay. So it took a very long time for me to recognize that I have a shadow side, like a different, a side that I don't like. And I believe that happened to me because I've always intellectualized life and seeing it theoretically. So I was more in, the philosophical understanding of it and applying it to my life.
Of course.
Without being able to see, hey, the nature is in me.
Yes.
Having gone through some situations, I broke open and I was able to thankfully see the shadow side. And it scared me because I knew a lot, but intellectualizing the challenge was of no use. It couldn't help.
Absolutely none.
No use. And then I recognized I got a deeper understanding of knowing the truth and the truth setting you free. I'm recognizing it's not thought about the truth, it's knowing it through the awareness.
Yes.
And so after that happened, a slew of thoughts that it came from the underground. It has to be, I was aware of the natures that just came through thought. And last night it reached a pinnacle and I was tired physically. And I saw the thoughts going round and round and I said, I'm going to bed. And I went to bed. And in the morning, I recognized there is the sovereignty of there's an order to things. Yes, the thoughts are there. The thoughts have an energy that can bring me down to that level, but then there's another part that's above the thought that holds that.
Yes.
Right. So that's what made me sleep and not become anxious as I used to. I mean, real anxiety. I've never had anxiety because, of course, everything was intellectual. But now,
it's not that you never had anxiety. It's just that
it was hidden.
It's just that the nature that creates it had answers for it that you could shelter in, and of course, there's no shelter in that. Yeah. So I have just one thing to say to you, because you said something, and I want to be very clear. You said, and everybody, everybody, there's parts of me I don't like. He maketh the sun to shine on good and evil alike. Be you perfect as your Father. Not, he makes the sun to shine on these bad parts, and he stands the good parts over there and leaves the bad parts to themselves. The parts of yourself that you don't like belong to the parts of yourself you don't like. The parts of yourself you don't like are an expression of the parts of yourself that you don't like. They need to have something not to like so they can be unlike them. They need to have something not to like so they can be unlike them. Anything that says I am unlike that is what it is like. And the more you see that, the less you will struggle when you see these things come up, these shocks, when things break open, in quotes. And really, you must be, I'll say it for you, you didn't break things open, the shell was cracking and you just said, okay, go ahead, okay? Which is kind of different than the way I broke it open. No, I got to the end of something as far as I could go, and I wasn't going any further. I didn't know what was going to happen, and then it all fell down, and thank God it did. Sound accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Guy, we have one final written question, no hands in the queue, so perhaps we could end with this question.
We will end with that question.
All right, this is a question that came in today from Deb on YouTube, and she asked, is lying by omission still a sin, missing the mark?
Well, I'll leave it to you, students. Is lying how, I inadvertently omitted that fact. We have to see everything. That's one of the ways that this thing lies. There's good reason, and again, not just in Western scripture with the so-called the serpent in the garden that slithers. It just wiggles. It just wiggles. We have a nature that just wiggles, and when it starts talking, it's wiggling. It's looking for some way to get you on its back. Well, I wish I had more time because there was a couple things I didn't put into the talk today, but my students are laying down on the ground here, so I'm gonna wrap it up. We know for a fact that if I omit something from a conversation, it's deliberate. And if it's deliberate, there's a motive. And if there's a motive, there's a will behind it. And if there's a will behind it, then that means something is willingly omitting something for the sake of ensuring I don't have to face some consequence. Persist with your work, no matter what.
Say goodbye.
Bye-bye. Everybody say bye-bye.
Bye.